This is our take on Tonkotsu Ramen with a light dashi base. Enjoy! We're going to start with kombu, also known as kelp. Make sure you let it sit in the water before turning on the heat. The longer, the better. Also, make sure you put some cuts in the kelp so that it seeps into the water. Bring the water to a boil. Just before it begins to boil and you see bubbles sticking to the walls of the pot, remove your kombu. Leaving it in will make it bitter. Now we're going to add katsuobushi, also known as dried fish flake, or in this case, bonito seasoning. This version is quicker for dashi. Stir well. Now we need some bones for our broth. We use pork neck bones, since pork is typically used in tonkatsu. You're going to see a buildup on the surface of the water. Once it gets thick, you're going to skim it off the top. Make sure to get as much as you can. Add some fresh cut garlic, some green onion, then reduce heat, cover, and let it sit. For the noodles, we'll use bread flour, baking soda, salt, and 2 eggs. In a bowl, add 3 cups of the bread flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and your eggs. We're also going to add a half a cup of water. This is our first time making the noodles, so we had to muddle through it. It says to whisk together, but our batter got too thick to whisk. So I tried using my hands. But it kept sticking to my hands. Then I tried a wooden spoon. I had much more success with the spoon. But it turns out the key was adding more flour. Go figure. Then you're going to knead the dough. Folding it like this helps get the air out of the dough. Add more flour. And add more flour again. Fold and fold and fold again. Keep doing this for a long time until you get the consistency that you like. It should look a little something like this. Nice and smooth. Relatively even. Make sure to cover your work surface with plenty of flour. Now, this is too much noodle. We didn't need this much and we didn't have enough room to roll it out. So we cut it in half. Make sure you roll it in the flour so it doesn't stick. Take a rolling pin and begin to roll it out. Again, this is our first time making noodles. In fact, this is our first time working with dough in general. So if we can do it, so can you. That's stuck. Looks like I didn't add enough flour. Once your dough is about 1 millimeter thin or so, fold it thusly. Then you're going to begin to cut your noodles. If you added enough flour in between, the folds won't stick. Also, make sure not to apply any pressure with your left hand. Remember how I said this was our first time? Well, it didn't quite go according to plan. So I salvaged what I could, rolled it all up, and started again. Using plenty of flour this time. It went much better. We ended up getting a good consistency, decent bounce. They weren't very even though, but I can live with that. Not bad for our first time. Make sure you cover your finished noodles with flour so that they don't stick together. This is especially important if you're going to set them aside. Next, we're going to prepare our pork. I chose pork tenderloin pre-marinated. In a separate bowl, we're going to combine our sauces. First, we start with soy sauce, then some ponzu sauce for citrus flavor, Worcestershire sauce, hoisin sauce, and sesame oil. Stir well. Add your tenderloin. This is going to be your marinade. Of course, you're going to want to cover it better than we did. Cover and set in the fridge. The longer you let it sit and marinate, the better. Next, we're going to boil our eggs. Now we're making soft-boiled eggs, so be careful when you add the eggs to the water so that they don't crack. It's important to put them in just before it begins to boil. Let the eggs boil for 6 minutes. This container was supposed to be filled with ice water, but our ice mostly melted. At the 6-minute mark, you're going to take your eggs out and put them in the ice water so that it stops the cooking. Once you feel your tenderloin is marinated enough, we're going to add the sauce to a heated pan. Then we add our tenderloin. Make sure your cooking instruments are appropriate for the job. That's better. Now we're going to sear our tenderloin on all 4 sides. This isn't meant to cook the tenderloin through, it's just to get a nice sear on the outside. Take care that your sauce doesn't burn, but in the event that it does a little, it's okay. It adds a nice char flavor. Delicious. As we cut into our tenderloin, you can see that it's still pink on the inside. It's only seared on the outside. So we're going to have to fix that. Cut the rest of your tenderloin into strips. Now, we've cleaned off our pan and we're going to add our sauce ingredients again, which were soy sauce, ponzu sauce, Worcestershire, hoisin sauce, and sesame oil. The pan doesn't need to be exceptionally hot, not yet, because we don't want to burn our sauce. Now with the pan lightly heated, add your pieces of pork to the pan. I'm beginning with low heat because they're going to cook very quickly and I want them to still be tender when we're done. And flip them over and make sure they're well cooked on both sides. When they're done, remove them from the pan, put them in a separate vessel, and place them aside. This is how they should look. Beautiful. Next, we're going to take our soft-boiled eggs, now that they've cooled, and we're going to peel them. Be very gentle with this egg. Being soft-boiled, it's going to be very delicate. It should be nice and bouncy, soft, like this. Next, we're going to place our soft-boiled eggs into our sauce, which I have now transferred to a pot. Again, more sauce works better here. The more they're coated, the better it will be. I'm going to also add some shiitake mushrooms so that they can soak up some of that delicious sauce. Now let's check on our broth. Notice there's no more scum floating on top. This is a good opportunity to taste to see if it needs anything. Always taste your broth. I feel it needs some ginger. I'm also going to add some lemon juice. Some fish sauce. A little bit of sesame oil. And some ponzu sauce. I'm also going to add a bit of pork bouillon. Because I haven't let it boil for very long, I want more of a pork flavor. The longer you let your soup cook, the better the pork flavor is going to be, but we're in a rush. And I'm also going to add some garlic powder because I want it more garlicky. Again, those flavors would have come out if we had let it boil for much, much longer. Normally, a good pork broth boils for at least 6 hours. Once you feel your stock has reached the consistency that you like, remove the ingredients. Now this pork is still good and can be used later. You can add it as a topping to your ramen if you'd like. Taste again. Delicious. Next, remove your eggs from your marinade, which should have been sitting in there for quite some time. Take the sauce and pour it into your broth. Nothing is wasted. Cover your broth and let it sit again. Now we're going to cut our eggs. This is a very delicate process. Oh no, my knife wasn't sharp enough. Let's try that again. Much better. Next we'll cut up our shiitake. Thin strips are fine. They don't have to be perfect. Next, we're going to get some nori, which are sheets of seaweed. I'm just going to fold this up and tear some shreds. Adding this to your ramen once the ramen is done will give it a very unique flavor. And there's our prep station. Now it's time to boil our homemade noodles. They are ugly, but I suspect they'll be delicious. They don't take very long to boil. I would say about 3 minutes, maybe 4. Keep an eye on your pot because they can boil over very easily. If it does begin to boil, don't panic. Just move your pot off your burner, let it settle, reduce your heat, and put it back. Not super ugly. Not bad at all. Pour your noodles into your strainer. And this step is very important. We're going to rinse our noodles to get the starch off of them. This also stops the cooking. Once all of your ingredients are cooked and everything is done, it's time to assemble your ramen. I like to top mine with green onions. And sriracha sauce. And that's it. Your Life Tonkotsu Ramen. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot. And if you like this video, please subscribe and we'll have more for you in the future. Bon appetit and itadakimasu.